Hello and welcome. My name is Bruce Rain from Brankus Creations, and thank you for joining my stream today. Sorry to the folks that might have potentially missed out yesterday because I started streaming so late. A little bit earlier today. Would have liked to have been a bit earlier than I am, but still better than nothing. Just a quick check to see that the audio and video is all okay. I'm a little bit off center here, aren't I? Sorry for all the OCD people. There we go. That's a bit better. GT, hello, thank you for joining. Jay, thank you for joining. Trina, thank you. Mac Effects, Charlie, Captain 318. Who else have we got? I think that's everyone. Okay, all good? Okay, excellent. Great. Now, for those who have been following along, in the last episode, I was looking at a MacBook Pro 17-inch with problems with the keyboard and problems with the trackpad. Now, I did hunt down a couple of these in my box of bits. No keyboards, unfortunately, but I do have a couple of trackpads I can try. GT was just watching Pirates of Silicon Valley. That is a great fun movie. I do enjoy watching that one. Jordan Kennedy, hello. I better just bear with me just a second while I go along here. So I've got two things that I'm planning to do today. I mean, I might do more, we'll see, but at this stage there are certainly two things on my plan list. Number one is to just try out a different trackpad in this MacBook Pro, which I know is not recapping, and that just seems like false advertising on the YouTube stream, but you know, it is just something that needs to be done. And one of the really the frustrating things about this is that, you know, when it comes to doing recapping, there's the work that I do down here, and then there's all the work that has to be done in terms of administrative stuff, you know, pricing, sending out details to the customer, packing up the board, all that sort of stuff. I've got so much of that to do today, so I'll be doing that after the stream. So, okay. Yeah, so Pirates of Silicon Valley is actually quite an old film. It's certainly not recent. I think it predates the second coming of Apple. It's the film. I don't want to give anything away, but the film is more about Apple's kind of rise and fall, not their rise, fall, and rise again. And it has was it Noah Wiley, I think, as Steve Jobs, and what's his name, the guy with the double barrel name from Breakfast Club, as the other guy, Bill Gates. So. Yeah, 1999. Yeah, so David, hello, thank you for joining. Anthony Michael Hall, that's the one. Yeah, so, and yeah, look, it is well worth a watch. I mean, there's a fair bit of stuff in there that, you know, I mean, they kind of condense everything down. I mean, I think in that movie, Jobs is portrayed more of just the kind of, all of the worst aspects of him without actually showing the good aspects. I mean, we all know that Steve Jobs was a bit of a tyrant at times and had his, you know, sort of reality distortion field and all that sort of stuff. But he was also someone who was extremely charismatic and inspired people and made people, he got the absolute best out of people. And I think sometimes that's forgotten. Okay, so that's enough about that. But it is a movie I really enjoy. And of course, if anyone is interested in the history of the personal computer industry, I also highly recommend a 3-part series called Triumph of the Nerds. Not to be confused with Revenge of the Nerds. Very different subject matter. But Triumph of the Nerds, which was made by Robert X. Cringely, it's a really good doco. Once again, it sort of ends at around about late 90s, so it isn't necessarily looking into the second coming of Apple, but it is still fascinating stuff. So yeah, okay, there we go. And I'm pretty sure it might even be up on YouTube. I don't know that you'd have to look too far to find that one. All right, so let's start off looking at this little guy here. So as I said, what I did yesterday was I fired this up. It's got an SSD in it that doesn't look like it's formatted or has an operating system on it or anything. I fired it up yesterday, and I could get the keyboard and mouse to work if I was using an external one. But if I was using the internal, I could get the trackpad to move the cursor, but if I pressed the button, it wasn't clicking. and the keyboard was I won't say unresponsive. The keyboard did work, but not properly. You know, a lot of keys weren't doing anything. They were just making beeping noises. It's like they were haywire. It's like the keys were all sort of crisscrossed, and that's fairly normal for potentially liquid damage. So I would say that someone's probably poured a drink into this at some stage. Right. So, oh yes, that's right, GT. You were a little unwell on what was that, in my Friday, your Thursday evening. So yes, I hope you're feeling better. Exhausted from a week of hard work. So it wasn't the Rona. Yep, okay, fair enough. And I hear that this is a 2010 MacBook Pro 17-inch. I actually really like this particular model. I think it's great. If one of these came up for cheap on eBay, sort of broken or something, I reckon I'd just grab it. I have an older one. I have the dual 3 gigahertz the Intel Core 2 Duo 3 gigahertz one, which is I think 2009, something like that. But all right, so the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this board, and I might zoom in for that a little if I can, and try and position this like more or less within where the camera is. I'm just going to put out my little super special paper towel there so as not to scratch the customer's board. Which way am I going? That way. I need it to be that way if I can. Now I'll just zoom out a bit. What processor in this one? That's a very good question. I do not know. I could, of course, give you the serial number of the computer, and you could look up on Apple's serialnumbers.com, Apple serialnumberinfo.com, the wonderful website brought to you by the House of Moth. And this is a test to see whether he just came in and got into the chat at the beginning and then nicked off again, you see. So if I mention that, if he's listening, he'll put a little link into the website. But if he's not listening, he won't put a link into the website. So we'll just see whether he is actually here or whether he just appeared in the chat early on and then nicked off again. So, all right. So let's continue with the pulling apartage of this. I think it will probably need a new battery. So one of the main reasons why I'm doing this is I want to be able to come back to the customer and say, this is what you're going to need. So I want to go in and try the trackpad, see how that goes. If that fits, that's great. Then I'm going to, obviously, I'll price them on putting a new keyboard in. And then I just also want to test to see what the state of the battery is, because if they need a new battery, I'll get a new battery. And one of this age, I suspect it probably will need a new battery. So the battery is not connected. Obviously, very important if you're going to be fiddling with these things. So I need to put on my Spidey goggles. What is the serial number? Okay. Recap. No, shouldn't need any recapping on this one. Serial number is C02 CM for Mary 1Z, or as people say in other parts of the world, Z. S for Sally, D for dance, C7C. There you go. Okay, so let's continue with this pulling apartage. Screwdriver. So I've got this little cover on here. It's just a little metal cover covering some of these little connectors. That has to come off. I use these little containers here to store all these things. I just find that's a nice, neat way of doing it. Okay, so, and we've got to just pull these. I usually do this, come on, there you go. I usually do this looking under the microscope rather than with these goggly things, because I just find it's a lot easier. Up she comes. These keyboard connectors have this little kind of black thing that you can use to grab to push them in. Some of the models don't actually have that, but those models I put a bit of tape on there to serve this purpose. It just makes life so much easier. Okay, we're going to undo. This is the speaker connector, and it's being a little bit stubborn with me. There we go. And what's that little one? Not sure what that one is. Not important. Has to come out. There's, you know, we were talking about these sorts of models recently, about sort of how these sorts of models don't have much in the way of liquid protection and that sort of stuff, you know, if you spill a drink on them or whatever, and what a design flaw that is and all that sort of stuff. But I have to say, as someone who has pulled quite a few of these apart before, oh, this is interesting. This has been pulled apart before, because the little latch for holding this display connector in has, the little latch is gone. So this is one thing that I often do with these. I just put a little bit of tape over like that, just to protect these little connector pins, because they can sometimes get knocked and damaged. So the type of processor type CTO, so was it custom, built to order or something like that? So we don't know. We do not know. If I'm successful here, I should be able to see, shouldn't I? Okay, so let's get some Torx action here. We've got one there. We've got one there. There is meant to be one there too, I think. This seems to be missing a screw. But, you know, the world's got a screw loose on that. Okay, so just pulling these apart. Don't need to take all of these screws out, because some of them are just like, for instance, holding the fans to the board. I'll just have to remember which one's which. So that definitely has to come out. Whoopsie, dropped it. It's in there somewhere. Oh, that one too. Right, so I put the fan ones in separate. And is it that one goes into the board? That one looks like that's attached to the board, so that one can stay in. Whoopsie. Well, I'm just dropping screws everywhere. I think I might need a magnet attached to this one. Says it's a Pentium 4. Okay. Yes, I don't think it's a Pentium 4. I'll just go, I'm going to go straight out on a limb and say that I don't think it's a Pentium 4. I don't actually have the right sized Torx driver here at the moment, and that's it's close, but it's not exactly the right one. See if I can find that screw that I dropped here. There we go. That one. Okay, we're getting close to being able to remove this yet. There was a time, many moons ago, when I used to pull so many of these apart, I would have just known exactly, but you know, I'm getting a little bit out of experience with these ones nowadays. Oh, one more screw there. Wrong screwdriver. Oh, Jesus, dragging tweezers across the board, nothing wrong with that. And that one goes there. Okay, so that should see us in a position where we can wiggle this board out. And yeah, so anyhow, what I was saying about these is that I actually quite like these, the design of these, with regard to working on them. I like how easy it is to just get the board out with a few screws undone. I'm a big fan. So let's see if I can read any writing on the CPU. i7 62, well, it's an i7, I can tell you that much. Oh, wow, it's small. 620M. The rest is under the heatsink. I mean, I will take the heatsink off and probably repaste it and clean it up a bit, but I'm not going to do that right now. The main purpose here is to just get the just swap over the trackpad. I'm looking out to see if I can see any liquid damage. You see how smooth this is? That's really, really smooth. Generally, if the keyboard has suffered from some liquid damage, you usually see ripples here because it comes through to to the other side of this, and you see these little ripples on this plastic stuff. Now, that's not to say that it hasn't had liquid damage. It at a glance, it doesn't look like it. So, Matt, hello, welcome to the stream. Do I have the board view for it? Yes, I do indeed. This one is an 8-2. But thankfully, I don't really need to do anything with this board as such. This is an 820-2849. So just for anyone who is working on these computers and is looking to do a bit of the sort of diagnostic work themselves, that's the number you need on the board. If you search for that number, like if you were to do a Google search for 820-2849 schematic PDF, you are probably likely to get a link to download that. Or if you search for board view, .brd or something like that, you probably get the board view file. The board views are really important for these because there's very little information on the board itself. You just got all these little components here with absolutely no descriptions on them whatsoever, no writing, nothing. So there's no way of you ever knowing what these are without having a schematic and a board view. So thankfully, for most of the models of this particular vintage, the board views and schematics are fairly readily available, which is nice. So, okay, all right. So anyhow, swapping the trackpad. I've really dragged this on, haven't I? Sorry. Let me just take this old trackpad out. This is stuck on with adhesive. Yeah. I'm going to peel it off. Ooh, peel, come on. Well, that's not very appealing. There we go. And then I need to undo some screws from here using, I think, a little tiny weeny little Phillips head. Where are we? Try this one. Okay. I would still repaste it since you have it open. The thermal paste that Apple used on those is crap. Absolutely, I'm definitely going to repaste it. I'm just not going to do it right now. And the reason for that is that I do want to swap the trackpad over and test it again. When I repaste it, I'm actually going to take the heatsink off. I'm going to clean off all the whole old paste. I'm going to throw my screwdriver across the room. I'm going to ultrasonically clean it, and then I'll dry it, and obviously, and then I'll repaste it and put it back together. I don't want to do that now because that's going to hinder my ability to just test this out today. So we've got these little teensy weensy screws here we need to undo. Come on. Once again, where's my magnet? Here it is. Now I've got a choice of trackpads to put on this. I've got one from a computer that was accidentally driven over by a car. And I've got one from a computer that I don't know what happened to it. I'm not actually sure how it was damaged, but okay, here comes the trackpad. Here's a trackpad. And it actually looks fine, doesn't it? It looks like there's absolutely nothing at all wrong with it. But no doubting the fact that it doesn't click. So, trackpad. You can buy replacements of these relatively easily. Often they're not a genuine Apple one. They're but yeah. So use the car trackpad. You reckon? Okay. How would you run over your computer? That's a very good question. Now, I should mention, this is a close friend of mine, so I don't want to say anything particularly bad. Sorry. I made myself a cup of tea before, but I didn't have time to drink it. A bit of ASMR drinking noises. Apparently they were in a bit of a tiz. They were rushed, They had their laptop in a bag and had rested the bag near the car or something like that, and had distractions and lots of stuff going on and everything, and then hopped in the car to head away, and they just drove over the bag with the laptop in it. Now, on the bright side, that computer has given its life for many things. One thing that is absolutely, this is not it. This is the car one. One of the things with this is the screen is absolutely shot. It is smashed to smithereens. Smithereens. There's just cracks all the way through it. Absolutely shot. So nothing we can do with that. And you can actually see the bend here. Can you see the bend there? Bendy. And that was where it took the brunt of the force, just there. All things considered, not too bad. But the logic board was totally unaffected. And I had someone with a 2011 MacBook Pro 17-inch, and we all know the problems with the 2011 in terms of the GPU issues. And they had all sorts of GPU issues with their 2011. And I was able to take the 2010 board out, pop it into the 2011, just went in without any issue. And okay, the guts of the computer was now a year older. It wasn't quite as fast as the 2011 model, but it didn't have GPU issues anymore, and they're still using that laptop today. So it was a good way of actually bringing a little bit of extra life. Now, I have some concerns here. Oh no, that's okay. So, despite the advice given by others, I'm not actually going to use the one that was driven over by a car. But it's actually funny. Yeah, it's like you even has the fancy anti-glare. Yeah, I think all of the ones I have are the fancy anti. Yep, all three of them are the fancy anti-glare. I don't like the anti-glare screens, I'll be honest. I like the shiny ones. But you know, that's just me. It's just me. Everyone's entitled to their own. The one exception I'll give to that is the I've got a 15-inch 2011 MacBook Pro. That's my main work laptop, and that one I got it with the normal glossy screen, but then I managed to get hold of the anti-glare, and the anti-glare is actually a higher resolution screen than the glossy one. So I use that because I get more pixels on the screen. So. These are the ones that have the little. What are they? What's this? Can someone remind me what this port is called? This one here. I can't remember what they're called, but I know that I've got a 17-inch one of these that has one of those, and I've just got an SSD reader stuck in it. So it's like having an SD. I would rather it just had an SD reader in there, but I've made it so that it has an SD reader by having that little SD thingy in there. Okay, all right. Let's get this trackpad out. So I want to remove this one very, very carefully because this is the one I'm going to be reusing. Try and peel this off without doing any damage to this ribbon cable. If I can get as much of the adhesive going with the cable, that's great. Saves me from having to use new adhesive. Sticky strips. There we go. Come, young fella. Okay. So here's my possibly good trackpad. A little bit grubby, but I'll clean it up. Put this down over here. And of course, if it doesn't work, I do have the one that was driven over the car as well. I should get this out of the way because it's just going to confuse me. Right. Just going to clean this up a little bit. Can you use a heat gun on a low setting to help take up the cable for the trackpad? Yeah, probably. I probably could soften up that adhesive a little bit. I mean, I'm hoping that I haven't wrecked the cable. But yes, I could definitely do that. The magic of adhesive, sort of heat with adhesives. Right. Okay. Let's do everything in reverse. I feel like I have a little chickeny friend hanging out around there somewhere. For those who are watching, potentially for the first time, that are not aware of the fact that I have some chickens, I get up this morning and I find one of the chickens going a bit berserk. Chicken's got something. Chicken's got something and doesn't want to share it with the other chickens. So they're chasing it around, but it's just running away. It doesn't, because chickens aren't good at sharing. I get up there and I find that what the chicken has is a mouse. A mouse. A whole mouse. A whole dead mouse. This is not going well, is it? Come on, get in there. And is in the process of eating it as well. So beautiful. Right, trackpad's in. Okay, Oz Retrocomp, hello, welcome to the stream. Oh, Dana does stuff. Look at Dana here. This computer is not beige. What the, I know. I was working on this one yesterday and I just wanted to get it finished off. Well, certainly part of it finished off. I think it has a dicky keyboard that's going to have to be replaced. It definitely has a dicky trackpad, which I am in the process of replacing. And I need to get under here and get one of these screws in. Okay. And when I screw these screws in, I don't do them all the way because I need to, whoopsie. I am going to be moving on to beige stuff after this, so don't worry. I just wanted to get this done first, and then we will be beige all the way. I didn't think chickens ate meat. Yes, they do, in a big way. They have a very big lust for protein, I can tell you. Now, most of the time that's usually insects. That's what they would normally eat. But yes, they will quite happily chow down on a mouse. They're very omnivorous, the old chickens. What's going on? Sorry, I should put my glasses back on, shouldn't I? I'm trying to actually do this around the wrong way. There we go. These are tiny little screws, obviously, in terms of they're only probably about a millimeter's worth of thread, if that. Because obviously they're screwing into this trackpad, which is not very big. Now, when I do these up, I like to do them up with a little bit of give in them, because I want them to be centered. So what I then do, making sure that nothing's going to fall out of this thing, I then flip it up this way. Something did fall out. Oh, I see what it is. Yep, that's all fine. I'll usually do maybe one up a little bit tight, just not super tight. I still need to be able to move it a bit. So one on each side, just tighten it up a tiny bit. I know you can't see this, I'm sorry. Right, and then I have it up like this, and I look at it, and I just, you can't see what I'm doing. I sort of hang it over the edge of the desk, and I can zoom out a bit, here we go. Yeah, I hang it over the desk like this, and I sort of move it around until I can see it's just centered inside that, inside the hole, because it is slightly smaller, maybe a millimeter, and so you're just looking to get about half a mil all the way around. Yep. No, I didn't do them up tight enough to start off with. I've got to get it so that they're tight enough so that it's not going to move by itself, but loose enough so that I can wiggle it just a little bit. Here we go. Here we go. Sorry, I'm probably scraping the microphone with my beard. There we go, that looks centered. Okay. Let's try that out. Okay. Then, last of all, we've got a little screw here which is used for adjusting the click. They never ate any mice. Well, mine did. I've got these terrible carnivorous chickens. So we've got this little screw here, and it's a really weird one. It's 3-pronged, tri-lobe, and I do have somewhere here a screw that fits it. I did have one that fits it. Maybe it's not in this set. Maybe it's in the other set. Excuse me just a minute. Does this one have it? Ah, there it is. Thank you, folks, for persevering. We can get one of our lovely little screw handles from iFixit. Yes, this is true. Not that you know of. I mean, who knows? Your chickens could be busily eating mice all the time. Just weren't aware of it. Come on. This has been screwed in at an angle by the looks of it, which is great. Okay, sorry. It's had some, what do you call that stuff? Thread locker on it as well. Right, so what I'm looking to do with this, I want to tighten this up to a point where the trackpad doesn't wobble. See how it's wobbling at the moment? I don't want that. But only just stops wobbling. Okay. Tiny bit more. Maybe a tiny bit more. That feels perfect. That feels perfect. And then if I'm sure that that's okay, I will then put some thread locker on that to make sure it doesn't work its, way undone. So let's put that up there. Let's put this over here and tidy things away and pretend like I keep my workshop super tidy all the time. All right, let's stick this down. As I said before, this has still got quite a bit of adhesive on it, so what's going on with this chatter? Oh, that's my wife. Oh, isn't that nice? My wife got the car washed, which is good, because it was very dirty. Okay. I probably shouldn't spend too much time sticking this down, because if this trackpad is not good, I'm going to have to replace it again. Right, okay. We're done. We can just put the board back on, we'll do a quick test, and then we can move on to much, much older computers. And we can slag off these new ones. Okay. I've got to get this little power thingy connected up again. The trickiest part of this, if you have left the fans on, as I have, is there is one little cable, it's the keyboard backlight cable, that needs to get connected up. Oh, this is just annoying. Come on. Get in there. Thank you. Rude thing. Okay, that's connected up. All right, so there's keyboard backlight cable, which is just here. I need to feed it through here. And if that gets too hard, then I'll just take the fan off. I'll just take the fan off. It's way easier. That one. There we go. Okay, so we're going to feed this in here. Get all these cables up and over. And another one there. One up there. One up there. That one up there. There's another one under here. This is our DVD drive. And we got that. And we've got a speaker. Come on. Ah, man. Stop being so difficult. Thank you. Okay. Do we have all the cables? Quick cable count. Anything going over the top there? No. Good. Oh, my little sticky thing came off. I'm telling you, man, this thing has been knocked around like you would not believe. Wow. I have to be super careful with that thing. I'm not surprised given the fact that this has, you know, well, the fact that that part is actually missing off it. The little metal thing that holds it in place is actually gone. So that goes in. It goes in. Goes in. That's the keyboard. Keyboard goes in. This is our new, in inverted commas, trackpad. Speaker. And DVD drive. This is the webcam. Come on. This is the, I don't know, is that the Wi-Fi? I think it might be the Wi-Fi. Something like that. There's back, oh, and this is the keyboard backlight. Sorry, I'm not reading the stream at the moment. If anyone is sort of calling out with something for me, I'm not going to see it just for a moment. Too busy doing this stuff. So, it really doesn't feel like it's gone all the way in. Okay. Right. Brock, hello. Welcome to the stream. I wanted to get to Sunday. Yeah, well, here it is. Sunday in all its glory. Okay, so let's, we're getting very close here, and then we can get on to the more interesting recappage of the vintage Macs, which is what everyone is used to. They're looking at this and going, what is this MacBook Pro garbage? Come on. Who do you think we are? Okay, that's that. So as I say, the thing that I'm, oh, there's one more here. One more. You get. Oh, come on. What's all that about? Come on, get in there. What are you doing? There we go. Right. So, display connector that just scares the hell out of me because it is so knocked around. Wow, I mean these pins, some of these pins are actually bent and they look like they've been bent back in, and it just, phew. I'm going to have to take this apart again, unfortunately, but really wish I didn't have to. All right, so that's that. Now we want to see what happens. So I am going to grab some power, and it'll start up as soon as I plug that in. So I better get an operating system. What worked yesterday? I can't remember. was fiddling around with different operating systems. I couldn't get 10.10 to work. I think I ended up using 10.8. I do have, as I mentioned before, I do have 10.11 on a SD card somewhere, a little thumb drive somewhere. I went looking for it this morning, and I couldn't find it in time for the stream. So, come on, make contact. There we go. Do something. There we go. Fan spin. You can't see it, but it's fan spin. Time for a sip of tea. This one will turn on without a battery as long as you've got an 18-volt connector. So what do they come in? The chargers come in, what is it, 60, 85, and 45 or something like that. As long as you're using an 85-watt charger, these ones will start without a battery. But if you do them with the lower power charger, the charger will work. It will charge. You can actually use it on the computer, but it won't start up without a battery. So. There we go, happy face. Okay. Put a couple of screws in the mother just to hold it in. No, I'm throwing caution to the wind. And I'm just getting it to hold in with the connectors. Connectors are holding it in. Actually, it's also being held in by the thumb drive thingy stuck in there. That's going to stop it from going anywhere. I can't remember if this is the OS that I used that took a really, really long time. Oh no, that looks like it's doing something. Always buy the 85-watt chargers. They're the same price as the lower ones and work on all that computers. Yeah, I agree. The only downside of an 85-watt charger is often the charger itself is physically bigger. The smaller ones are smaller. So if you're having to cart them around with you all the time. Yeah, see this? See what we're going on here? My guess is that is because we've got this little green effect going on here. I'm guessing that's because of that connector. So I'm going to have to probably, when I do put it together finally, I'm going to have to just be unbelievably careful with that. I'm going to have to probably bend some of those pins back in place because it has clearly been knocked around. Now, eject, eject, eject. Okay, so the button is still not working. Now, that suggests to me that the problem is probably not then the trackpad, because I cannot imagine that I would have two trackpads that were both giving me this same problem. This is, I'd say, more likely to be something to do with the fact that this keyboard is totally stuffed. So, anyhow, on the bright side, that means that I probably don't need a replacement trackpad. The trackpad itself is probably okay. I think it's probably just related to the problem with the keyboard, or it could be actually on the board. Maybe there's nothing wrong with the keyboard at all. I might have to do some board swapping and stuff like that. But anyhow, I'm not going to bore everyone with that now because I think we've seen enough of this silly new Mac. I'm just going to plug this in so I can shut it down. It's probably going to involve me having to actually use my brain. And, we all know what a taxing thing that is. Hey, don't make a liar of me. Before, I was able to use the mouse. Come on. Let's try that. Oh, so it looks like we have a problem with one of the USB ports as well. This thing, yeah. Oh dear. Okay. So we've got, looks like we've got a defective USB port. That's awesome. Yeah, because really you don't ever want to have to sort that out. There is one little IC you can replace which might fix it. But I'm not looking forward to it. So, anyhow, good night. Wait till the fan stops spinning before I unplug it. We'll close that. Oh, it just restarted. Thank you very much. No, thank you. No, thank you. All right, so let's put that away now. We will pretend that we never looked at it. All right. That. I better put that in here because that goes with this. Right. I've got another MacBook Pro. Do you want to look at that one as well? No, I'm just joking. How's it off? Welcome. Hello, Jay. Thank you for joining the stream. I just swapped over the trackpad on that MacBook Pro 17-inch, and it made no difference to the trackpad whatsoever. So the problem, I do not believe, is actually in the trackpad. The keyboard didn't look like it had any liquid damage at all, and yet it still didn't work. So maybe the problem is not actually the keyboard. Maybe the problem is something else somewhere on the board related to that. But as I sort of said during the stream, oh, and of course, there's a lot of evidence that thing has been pulled apart before, because the little display connector, the little metal clasp that holds the display connector in place, that was gone, and the pins themselves of the display connector were damaged. So, yeah. So anyhow, that's going to be a fun one. I've got some more work to do on it, but it's one that I don't want to have to pull apart and put together and pull apart and put together, because of the damage on that connector. So I want to just try and get everything all good to go. But anyhow. Yes, what does CTO stand for? Okay. Yeah, sounds like I'm going to have fun with that one. Sounds like that one's going to be an absolute friggin' nightmare. I would feel a lot better about it if it was mine. But with it being a customer's board with that damage already there, I'm just not looking forward to it. So I do have a replacement display cable. But as I'm sure you're aware, replacing that display cable is a real nightmare. Reason being that I think you actually have to take that metal bezel off the front in order to open the screen up and swap the cable over in there. And those bezels never go back on the same way as they come off. So, yeah, customized to order. I thought it was something to order. Yep. Hello, chicken. All right, so this is essentially what I was going to do today before I just did that. I was going to recap me LC575. Ta-da! This is what we're used to looking at. Green boards, not black ones. So this is sent to me by a customer. Usual thing. I can tell you what the customer said about it. Base head. I come out and make outrageous claims like I can tell you, and then okay, here we are. Where are you? Let's have a look. It worked perfectly until today, but now chimes and doesn't initiate the screen. I hadn't replaced the caps yet. I was going to get that done down the track. So yeah, all right. So it was working and then just suddenly stopped. And so obviously with any problem with these sorts of computers, it may not always be the caps, and really that's the fact. I mean, it might actually be something else. But the problem is that the caps are a problem, and there is no point diagnosing anything else unless you eliminate that problem. I mean, it's just crazy to be trying to find potentially another fault when you know that there is a fault that exists there. So you really have to do the recapping. Then if it still doesn't work, then you can continue with further diagnostic work there. Need a trackball instead of a mouse. Okay, so quick thing. This has an Ethernet card on it. If you're trying to remove these, don't lift them up from here or from here. Grab them from either side and wiggle them off, pulling and wiggling, pulling and wiggling, pulling and wiggling. That way. If you lift them off that way or that way, you can end up snapping the ends off these. So you want to do it sideways, just gently wiggling it off. Okay, so this is a Farallon Ethernet card. I actually have a bunch of these myself. Fantastic. I just like trying to put them in all of my all of my sort of LC style boards, all of these sort of the ones that have that LC PDS slot, because I just always figure, you know, why not have it able to be connected to Ethernet? Okay. Right, now, let's get a little Ziploc bag, as I always do with my customers' stuff, and I pop the things in it, and I should probably even write the job ticket on it. That's all these newfangled systems that I'm putting in place, because I've got so many boards being sent to me. I've got some coming to me from the US of A. I've got one coming to me from across the ditch, as we say, from New Zealand. So they're just they're coming at me from all angles at the moment. What was the job ticket number on this one, I ask myself? This was number 23. 23. We've got 20 viewers watching at the moment. Thank you to all of you for watching. If you are watching silently, please feel free. Oh, did I just write the wrong? I wrote 30. It's 23. Nothing wrong with me. If you are just sort of watching silently, please jump on and say hello. Say g'day. Always like to hear from folks. So I need to take this memory off. I would say this is either a 16 or a 32, probably a 32 megabyte, I would say. I think there's an extra L there. Who was that asking? Yeah, that's Matt. Yeah, I think you're missing an L. Yep. You got it right except for one L in terms of the spelling of Farallon. Now, these are rare little things. I don't get to see these very often. These are 512K VRAM sims. Most of the time, when I get these, they are 256K, but these are actually 512s. And as I say, I mean, you can buy these, but people are charging ridiculous money for them at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, I would love to have them. I've got none. I don't have any at all. I've only got 250. I've got stacks 256K, but I've only got 256K. So, Krishna Draws, hello. Welcome to the stream. Whacked Moss. Whoa, what's that? Whacked Moss 3, Moss 3 or 4. Okay. I'm sure there's some hidden meaning to that. I'm not aware of what it is, but hello and welcome. Right, so I've got some sort of speckledy yuck on my mouse here. I wonder what that is. Probably something I was cleaning. Right, now we get to the interesting stuff. So we have, I've got my cheat sheet as usual. I have cheat sheets for the boards that I work on. This is, I think, the right one. 106.3, yes, yes, yes. So many of these LC boards look the same to me. This is a slightly different revision. This one is newer than this one, but they're still essentially the same. This is a 33 megahertz 68040 CPU for those playing at home. That's the LC575, and of course this is the board that people always use for their Mystic upgrades. Well, not always. This is what people are wanting you to use with their Mystic upgrades. You can actually put a variety of boards in there. You can stick a Classic 2, an LC520, an LC 550, I think you can put in there. But all of those are 030 boards. They are slightly faster versions of the 68030 CPU. This gives you the power of the 68040. And I'm telling you, if you have used a Color Classic and then you put one of these into it, it is just like putting on the gas pedal. It is so much faster than the original 16 megahertz 68030 to ramp right up to 33 megahertz 68040. It's a huge boost. So as I say, these I do generally recap a lot of these. Number one, because I need recapping, but also because a lot of people are recapping these to then stick in their Color Classics, which is fine. That's up to them. I'm not judging. This one's pretty dirty. It's going to need some cleaning. Danny Giacomo, hello. Watching while getting my PowerBook G3 Pismo ready. Installed a CF drive, so now it runs silently. Excellent. I actually had trouble installing a. It wasn't a CF. It wasn't a compact flash. I think it was an SD, and I had trouble getting an SSD. Sorry, not SD. SS solid state drive. I used one of those little solid state drives in there, and I couldn't get it to work inside my Pismo, I think, from memory. But yeah, compact flash would probably work quite well, I would imagine. Yeah, I should do that, shouldn't I? Anyhow. Another thing with these LC575s is they have this little square 4.5 volt battery that connects up to these little pins here. Even though there are 3 pins, there are only 2 of those pins are used. The only reason why there are 3 pins is so that you can only put the plug on one way around. So JJ Brubaker, hello and welcome. And as I mentioned yesterday in my other stream, when it comes to these little batteries, they're quite hard to find. So what I usually do is I just get one of these that holds 3 AAA batteries. It's good to use lithium batteries that are going to last a lot longer. They're a lot more expensive, but they're good to use. And then you just plonk that in there, stick it on there with a bit of Velcro underneath it, just have it sitting there. I mean, it's, you know, I know it doesn't fit properly, but it's inside the board. What's going to matter? It still works as a PRAM battery. So yeah, that's what I tend to do with mine. So just with one of these, and these little holders are quite cheap to buy. I mean, I buy them from the local electronics place, but you can buy these, you know, all over the place. So, all right. So now let's go and have a look at this guy up close. Now I've got to just adjust my microscope here. It's still set up from when I was doing all the weird stuff yesterday. Captain 318. The square batteries explode and completely destroy my original LC507 board. It was so bad. Yeah, they do leak. They do definitely leak. I know that when I got hold of a 630 LC635. I don't know. It had one of those batteries, and when I opened that up, the battery actually looked okay. But when I opened up the plastic, because it's a plastic case around the outside, I opened up the plastic to reveal the cells inside. It was just corrosion central in there. So it was just a matter of time before that was going to find its way outside. So, is that a heatsink below the battery connector? Are you talking about there? Right there? No, it's not. What you've got there is actually kind of Velcro stuff. It's like where you have the hook and the loop of Velcro. This is the hook. And so the battery, the original battery that came with it, had the loop side of the Velcro on the underside of the battery. So that's what would hold the battery in place. It was just like being held on with Velcro. So that's what that is. And that's just it's stuck on there with adhesive. That can actually peel off. But I'd say if you're going to replace it with something like that, it saves you from, all you have to do is put the hook, you know, the hook Velcro onto that, and that'll just stick down onto that. So, yeah. So that's what that is. That's a pigeon. A pigeon has come in here. Dear, oh dear. This is the problem when you have chickens. You end up with pigeons around as well. All right. Okay. So let's have a look at this under the microscope, shall we? And how about we go into focus? There we go. That's focused. Right. So I've talked about this before many times, but what you have here is a sound chip. And on either side of the sound chip, you've got these nasty fellas here. You've got 2 surface mount electrolytic capacitors there, and you've got 2 surface mount electrolytic capacitors there. And they do tend to leak into the sound chip. Now this one is dusty, granted, but not much in the way of leakage. Oh, it looks like my audio is slightly out of sync. You hear now? Yeah, we're back. Okay. These are boards getting hard to find. So the LC520 and 550 in my experience. Yeah, they are. I mean, look, they still turn up. Here's a really funny thing. Well, it's not that funny. It's a little funny. I had a situation where someone posted on Facebook saying, I've got this board, but I can't identify it. Can you tell me what it is? And someone contacted me and said, hey, can you just identify what this board is? And I took one look and I said, oh, that's an LC575. And this person had been after a 575, so they just jumped straight on there and said, oh, dibs, you know, I'll have it. And they didn't pay too much for it. And I just put a little comment in that and said, oh, I would have loved that. Oh, it's a shame I missed out on that. And then this guy just posted straight after it. He said, I've got 2 LC575 boards. Do you want to sell? Do you want to buy one? With the benefit of hindsight, I should have just bought both of them, but I bought one. I don't want to be greedy. Let someone else have the other one. So I bought that one, and I didn't even have to kind of hunt for one. This person just said, I've got them. Do you want one? And I paid something. I paid like $40 or something like that, quite cheap. Am I the bird whisperer? No, no, I'm not the bird whisperer. They come for food, that's all. Okay, so, oh, geez, something's cooking. I can smell something. I can smell pies or something like that. I don't know where they're coming from, but yum. Okay, so, right, well, we've got to start taking some caps off. There's been enough of my chattering going on here. Tells ya. Hot air station. Heat shields. I've talked about my heat shields many times before, but this is my heat shields just here. I use little blades, metal blades with a spring, so they hold up like that, and I'm using them to protect this processor direct slot here. And so I prefer taking those off there. The guy you wish you had as a neighbour. Well, I did generally keep the birds to myself. I consider myself to be a fairly considerate neighbour when it comes to the birds. Probably the main thing that people don't like about having me as a neighbour, and this is not my fault, is a rather gigantic tree we have in the backyard. And I think that a lot of people would rather that tree wasn't there, because it's a fig tree, and so it gets little figs. They're not figs that people can eat. They're not like yummy figs. There's signs of leakage there for sure, but they are a sort of fig that bats like to eat. So we get lots and lots of bats here when there's fruit on the tree, and I don't think many people like bats very much. So I think that's the only reason why people don't like this. But that's not really my fault. That's the tree. Can't really blame me for that. Right. Get a couple more of these off. I didn't film that with the microscope, did I? Isn't that awful? Let's try this with the microscope this time. I'm just not happy with the way this is sitting. Finished watching a fantastic TV series last night, just in case anyone is interested and has Netflix. It's a show called Money Heist, also known as La Casa de Papel. Spanish show. Very, very good show. Been sort of binge watching it recently, and just got to the end of it last night. Very, very pleased with that show. Okay. Maybe that tree sends your neighbour's batty. Boom, boom. DD Electrical, hello and welcome. Okie dokie. Let's move on to these ones. These are the capacitors that live down by the sea. No, they live down by this connector here. This big long connector here. And so I obviously need to use heat shields here to not melt them. But then I've also got them next to this processor direct slot. And I don't want to melt that either. So we've got to create a little section off area here in order for me to recap that. Jeff Barnard, hello. Or have I already said hello to you? Are you just saying hello to someone else? I can't remember. Actually, come on, up you come. As I've mentioned in my streams many times before, when I have a row of caps like this, I always like to try and take them off at the same time. Because when you're applying heat to the board like this, it will generally make the removal of the second and third one easier, because you have already applied some heat to the board. Here we go. Just got here. Good. Excellent. Don't want to be going around saying whole load of people twice. I mean, what's the world coming to? Couple more caps here. This isn't a particularly difficult recapping job, the LC575. There's not that many caps on there. I think there's only 2 types from memory. I think 4716, yeah, only 2 types. 200 microfarad 6.3 volt and 1047 microfarad 16 volt. As usual, cheat sheet available on my website, recapamac.com or .com.au, whichever one tickles your fancy. It has recapping guides for a lot of Macs. This is one of the ones that is also included. I do have recapping guides for the 575 there, because it is quite a popular one. I've got a holiday tomorrow. I was thinking I might even stream again tomorrow, but I just realised that most of the work that I have to do now is really not stream type work. It's not the stuff that I can kind of chat away while I'm doing it and make it kind of try and make it interesting. It's the sort of work. I'm going to have to do this top down. Sorry, guys. Every now and again you get that. This one looks like he's about to blow. It was more of a pff than a pop. What? Okay, that one went too. It went pff. Yeah, it's still smoking. I probably need to turn my fan on, don't I? Oh yeah. It's getting cold here, so turning the fan on isn't as appealing as it is in summer. Michael Mullet. Welcome to the stream. I'm glad you made it. I was just looking at a MacBook Pro, the one I was looking at in the stream from yesterday, and not succeeding with it, unfortunately, but that's another story. You can, if you're interested in that, you can certainly catch up on the beginning of the stream. And now we have moved on to the recapping of an LC575 board. One of the many ones that I get to recap regularly because everyone likes the 575 because it can be used as the Mystic board. Now this one isn't being used as a Mystic. This one is actually from a 575. Anyone who owns a 575 will know that they are one of the computers that suffers terribly from the brittle plastic. And so obviously just whipping up the logic board and sending it to me for recapping is a hell of a lot safer than trying to send the whole computer. And that's what's happened with this. They've just sent me the logic board. The problem I see for the future of these things is that the analog boards are going to need to be recapped on those things as well. But from my experience, trying to get the analog board out of those things without the case just falling apart on you is very difficult. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with those. It is a shame, and I'm sure you've all seen some of these amazing photos of people who have had, you know, LC575s or whatever FedEx to them or something, and people have put them in a box with a couple of pieces of polystyrene foam or something, and then they've just arrived shattered, absolutely shattered messes. So it's very sad. Bill G, have I said hello to you? If I haven't, hello. Okay, so cold according to people in Australia. Yeah, I know. Yeah, my cold. I mean, it's 17 degrees Celsius here. What's that in Fahrenheit? I don't know. It's like 40 or something. I don't know, something like that. That's, you know, that's cold. Yeah, actually, it gets cold in Ballarat. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that. Further inland, you know, it gets hotter in summer as well. I think, doesn't it? Sort of colder in winter and hotter in summer. Yay. Yeah, Calico has water. It's Mystic. Yes, I mean that's the popular choice with a Color Classic. There are a couple of games that I really like to play on my old vintage Macs, my old 030 and old 040. are obviously fairly limited to what you can do because of the power of the computer. So, for example, if you're looking to do like first-person shooters or something like that, you know, even something like Wolfenstein 3D runs fairly lame on a you know, sort of an old 030 and an 040. I think it's playable. 17C is 63 Fahrenheit. Okay, fair enough. Yep. So yeah, 63 Fahrenheit. Bloody cold. You knew Celsius with me. I'm in Canada and understand. Yes, it's well. It's a without wanting to sound too you know, sort of arrogant. It is actually a far better scale for working with than Fahrenheit. Has many advantages. You know, based on zero being zero is the melting point of water. So if it's less than zero, it's frozen, and then obviously anything after is the melting point of water at sea level. I should mention it is at sea level because it does vary based on your altitude. And 100 degrees Celsius is the boiling point of water, and it's just a nice, easy kind of scale to work with. Interestingly enough, at I think minus 30, both of them overlap. So minus 30 in Fahrenheit is minus 30 in Celsius, something like that. And of course, it is probably also worth mentioning that I think there is only one single country left in the world that still uses Fahrenheit. It's just a really big one. Okay, minus 40, is it? Okay. I'm disappointed that Kelvin was never adopted. Yeah, it's interesting. So Kelvin obviously being, it still goes up in the same scale as Celsius, you know, but it starts at absolute zero rather than starting at the melting point of water. So, or melting point of ice, I should say. So yeah. Yeah, I would have been happy to adopt Kelvin, but you know, I don't get to make these decisions. Right, that's all the caps off, and I wasn't looking through the microscope for that last one, was I? That was nice of me, or the last few, I think. So this is where we go to the same old bit we're so used to seeing if you've watched my streams before, and that is where I clean off the pads, make them look like new again. So we've got this goo here. Now, I don't know, that could just be some residual flux going on there rather than actually being capacitor leakage. But, you know, okay. Yeah, so the Tacky upgrade, that's an interesting one. Worth mentioning the old Tacky upgrade over the Mystic upgrade. The advantage of the Mystic is that you have got exactly the same connector. The Tacky upgrade involves some far more serious modification to the case of the Color Classic, because you have to you've got to actually, you know, replace the other end of this connector, because the boards from a Tacky upgrade actually uses a different connector. So you've really got to make some big changes to the inside of the Color Classic. I like the idea of doing a Tacky upgrade, but it's not something I want to do to my Mac. I'm quite happy with the 040. As I say, when it comes to the games that I want to play, so you know, I generally play. God, this is grubby. I generally play, as I said, you know, Wolfenstein 3D. If I want a bit of a first-person shooter, I play Sid Meier's Civilization. I really like the first one of that, and the second one's good too. But I really like, you know, the original, especially the graphics on the Mac. They were so much better than the PC version. I really like Warcraft, the very first, you know, Warcraft 1. I love that. It's a good fun game. Can occupy a lot of time playing that. These pads are really tidy, aren't they? It's going to be a quick recap, this one. I mean, when I say quick, I mean compared to some of my others. It's all relative, isn't it? I keep going out of sync. I don't know why. S-Y-N-C, not S-I-N-K. No drop frames, but for whatever reason, whatever trickery is going on. Did I get more solder wick? No, I didn't. When I finished my last stream, it was like I had to go straight up and start cooking some dinner. Made myself made myself and my wife a Thai red curry for dinner last night. So I went straight up and started cooking, and and that sort of stuff. So tonight we're doing fried chicken wings. Yeah, I'm the cook in the house. That's mainly because I love it. And so yeah, I didn't really get a chance to go out again. Actually, that's the other thing. The shops were shut, and of course this morning I got pretty much up and then just got myself prepped for this stream. So I haven't even had a chance to go out. But I probably will later today, head out and get some more, because it is just something that I cannot be without. A bit of wick. Oops, out of focus. Look at those pads. They look like brand new. Oh, the cat just heard my voice and started meowing. Hello. Ba-ba-bum. Chickens walking around wearing bandages. What did I say in order to get that response? I'm not sure. Oh, are you, because we're the cats? Is that what we're talking about? Is it maybe because I've got cats and chicken? Well, the cats are actually indoor cats, so never the twain shall meet. Look at those pads. They look like they're brand new. Yeah, so the cats have the inside of the house, and then they have like an outdoor run where they can go out and get a bit of sun, but they are essentially unable to get anywhere near the chickens. So, having said that, the cats would never take on a chicken, and they're just too big and flappy and big claws and stuff like that. Cats, cats are opportunists. They hunt with the stuff that is a surefire thing, unless they're really desperate. So yeah, there would never be any issue with the cats and the chickens, if that's what you were referring to. Chickens. Oh, you're talking about me having chicken wings. Yes, no, not my own. I go out and buy chickens from the supermarket for that. And I'll tell you why. Because the minute you kill them to eat them, they don't lay eggs anymore. And I have them to lay eggs. So yes, they won't be my chicken's wings tonight. No. Yeah. I mean, needless to say, I have 3 cats. And as I say, they're indoor cats. So if a mouse were to actually come into the house, it would be a really, really bad move. This is my Yucky Flux, by the way. I've talked about this in my other streams before. I got given this flux for free with one of the flux orders that I did, and I don't like it. It's yucky, but it's fine for cleaning. I can use it for cleaning pads like this, so I'm just using it up, and then I'll, when I'm actually sticking the components on, I use the nice stuff. As usual, just using heat and flux and gentle, super gentle rubbing with the soldering iron tip to clean these pads up. And as you can see, the old solder wick gets used up quite quickly. I think this is my last roll, so if this one goes, I'm in trouble. Big trouble. Stuff that smells gross, or am I thinking of someone else's flux? Well, it's not actually gross. It smells sickly sweet. It smells like, sort of what we call fairy floss, but what Americans call, is it candy floss, I think they call it. It's just got this really sickly sweet smell about it that I really don't like. But the main thing I don't like about it is the fact that it's opaque. I can't see through it properly. God, look how clean those pads are. I mean, wow. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go, I think. I think. Let's do these ones here. These ones are tucked in with all this plastic, so I need to be a little bit careful while I'm working on them. Cotton candy, that's the one. Cotton candy. As I say, what we call ferrifos here. We don't use the word candy here in Australia really at all. We use lollies or sweets, but generally lollies. You can just make some from some old stranded wire. No, I don't like that. I like to use wick, which is very finely braided. It has it's been sort of it's like infused with some flux. Old braided wire will work under some circumstances, but for the stuff that I'm doing, I definitely like to have this fine, really fine braided wick. I think it just works way better for this purpose. Here's that sweet smell again as I'm using that flux. Whoopsie. See how this is getting stuck to the pad. It's mainly because of the way that I'm holding it, but obviously the important thing is if it does ever get stuck to the pad, the solder cools and it gets stuck to the pad. Don't try and yank it, just get more heat on it until it loosens up and then pull it away. My grandmother, who's British, used to use the word lollies. Yes, lollies is, as I say, that's basically that's the word we use. Probably the word candy is probably starting to get used a little bit now because we have been very heavily exposed to American culture. I mean, so for example, when I was growing up, the concept of Halloween, no one did Halloween at all. No one, not a soul. That was just something that Americans did. We didn't do Halloween at all. Whereas these days, it's certainly in some suburbs, it's huge. People are going out and doing Halloween. The only downside is, of course, Halloween happens in our summer. It's when the days are really long, and so when people head out to sort of collect their candy, collect their lollies, it's still broad daylight. The sun doesn't go down until I don't know, about sort of 8:30 or something at night. So it's the idea of putting a candle into a pumpkin or something like that. No one's going to see it because it's broad daylight outside. Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's continue. Let us continue. We're nearly done. This is the fourth last one here. Third last one. And the fact is, this is a fairly straightforward recapping job. It's the luck of the draw with these when I'm doing them. And there are times when, because I generally charge a flat fee for recapping, and there are times when you get a job like this, which is fairly straightforward, recap clean, all good. And there are other ones where, it might take me 3 or 4 times the length of time just to clean a single pad. And as I say, that's just the luck of the draw. I mean, it's very hard to sort of charge something like this job to job. I mean, there are some that I know are a nightmare, and so I can say to them, look, for that particular model, it's going to cost more because I know what to expect. So for instance, if someone ever asked me to recap, I don't know, let's say 7,300, something like that, 9,500, I would have to charge more. There are something like 30 capacitors on those. Okay. Popsicles. Yes. Yes, we generally don't call those ice creams popsicles. I mean, we generally just call them an ice cream. You know, we have paddle pops, which is sort of a brand. We refer to a paddle pop. Sometimes people just call ice creams paddle pops just generically. But yeah, we would call them an ice cream. Amiga 600, yes, I charge more for an Amiga 600. I should actually charge even more than I do charge for an Amiga 600, but yes, indeed. So I've done 2 of those just in the last, week or so. The second one was marginally easier, simply because I knew exactly what I was going to need to do right off the bat. So I just went straight in, took off those little connectors that I know get in the way of the recapping. So I just did that first, and then took off all the through-hole caps, and then took off all the surface mount caps, and yeah, it was okay. But yeah, I cannot do an Amiga 600 for the same price that I do something like this. It's just no way. I mean, apart from the fact that the capacitors themselves are more expensive, there's the amount of time spent is it's crazy. So, this is now the board with all the capacitors gone. And you can see we've got these lovely, shiny new pads ready for new components to go on. And again, these are things that I talk about in my stream quite regularly. When it comes to soldering, having clean surfaces is one of the most important things for getting nice, tidy solder joints. If your pads aren't super shiny and clean like that, and they're not going to accept solder properly, and you'll end up adding more solder to try and make it stick, and then you'll get these huge globs sticking out there, and it'll look awful. Multicam editing in Final Cut Pro pulls out remaining hairs and screens. I can give you some tips on that if you like, Jay. I've done a bit of multicam editing before, and I love it. It's great. It's so awesome the way it works. There's kind of one trick you need to use, in particular if you're using a single audio source and you're using multiple cameras, but you want to maintain that single audio source no matter what angle you're going to. You have to press a different button, or I think there's a little setting there that makes sure that you retain the audio source from one particular angle, and then you can just flick between the angles. It's great. I love it. But it does take some getting used to. I accept that. All right. Let me just check and see how we're doing here. We've got 26 viewers at the moment, so thank you to all 26 of you. I do appreciate it. Hammer and sickle. Boom, boom. Jeez, we've got some great humour happening on the chat today, don't we? Right. There's my cat again. Getting lonely. My wife's not here at the moment, so the cat's just there by herself getting lonely and making noises. Right, so as usual when I'm doing these, I grab a cheat sheet, and I usually start with the capacitors that there are fewest of, and that's only because then I can sort of say, okay, well this one has 10 of one type, 2 of the other. I put the 2 on, and then the rest I can just, wherever there's a gap, I know to stick that cap on. So we've got 100 microfarad 6.3 volt, need 2 of those. 1, 2. And let's put that over here. And they go up here in the corner. You can't really see, but they go up here right next to the sound chip there. And let's... This is really stiff at the moment. I don't know why it's so stiff. Something's not right. Oh, that's a bit better. Okay. What do I want? I want this view. There we go. Once again, we have a little plus sign screen printed on the board, which makes life a lot easier. And we also have these little bevels, which indicate the positive side. The little bevels on there shows it's the positive side, and on these 10 talum caps, the positive is the side with the stripe. And the number, 107, it's 10 with 7 zeros after it in picofarads. So it's 1, 0, and then another 7 zeros, and that's what it gives you in picofarads, which is equivalent to 100 microfarads. I like to get these nice and straight. When I'm doing these, I always like to make sure the capacitors are straight, not crooked, because that's the sort of thing that you really notice when you look at the board, because everything on the board is stuck on with precise symmetry by machines. So if you then go on and put on a wonky capacitor afterwards, it just sticks out like something that dogs have. Okay. Well, half dogs, not all of them. 50% of dogs, approximately. Oops, oh God, look at me, making a mess. And everyone's getting upset, including my cat. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. I'll just see, can you see how it's sort of, it's just slightly crooked, or maybe not. Okay. I don't know why, but my picture keeps going out of sync. I don't know if that's happening on the live stream as well, but it's certainly going out of sync here. I might need to restart this computer sometime soon. This is a computer that's had Colin Mister's patcher, so that I can run an operating system that is not natively supported on it. And I'll be honest, it doesn't run terribly well. It does mostly what I want, but it has all sorts of little issues, little niggly issues. Okay, so that's the 2 of the 100 microfarad 6.3 volt. All of the rest on the board now are 47 microfarad 16. So that just makes life a little bit easier, because I can just reach in and grab them all from the 47 pile. And it's 10 of them in total. But I won't grab all 10 at once, because as I have said before, I have capacitor fairies that come in and steal capacitors from me when I'm not looking. And so I need to make sure that I only grab a little at a time, a few capacitors at a time, so that I don't tempt the capacitor fairies. This one's going to come up looking like brand new after it's been through the ultrasonic cleaner. Eat for ice cream. Yes, I'd love some ice cream. Which I've noticed graphical glitches as the GPUs don't support metal, except the Mac Pros with metal, obviously. Yeah, I mean, so basically this computer that I stream from is a Mac Pro 3,1. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM, 2 3 gigahertz quad core Intel Xeons. So what is that? So that's 8 cores, I guess. So of 3 gigahertz, early 2009 model, and I'm running High Sierra on it. And yeah, it's a bit, and I've got a Radeon HD 7950 with 3 gigabytes of VRAM in it. And look, it's a good computer. It's a good workhorse. This used to be my main computer. Then I got a 2012 MacBook Pro. Oh, that's now 2. I need to tighten that up a little. Yep. Hello, cat. Hey, Shelby. Okay. She's a bit needy today, isn't she? You may not be able to hear her, but I'll tell you what, I sure can. Too big a blob. Get rid of some of that excess solder. Can't be having mine looking all yucky and blobby. Okay, I like Yosemite. Yeah, so the main reason why I went to High Sierra on this one was because of OBS, Open Broadcast System, the one that I'm streaming with. Now, it was actually saying that it required High Sierra to function, to run. Now, I'm not even sure that is true, because I had a few dramas and everything setting this up initially, and I think I actually managed to get it up and run with 10.12 instead of 10.13. one of the tricks I do when I feel like I haven't got these things perfect. Oh, there's just way too much solder on that one. Let me just get some wick here. Can't be having it looking like that. It looks terrible. There we go. There we go. That looks nicer. That's nice. I'm spending way too much time on this particular capacitor, aren't I? I have to move on. Oh man, I'm gonna get a soldering iron in there somewhere. How am I gonna get it in? All these things in the way. Might have to do this. I do this from time to time. I just take the soldering iron, the microscope away, and I just go straight down from the top. See how that looks. Yeah, it looks nice. Okay. That's good. Okay. What was the last officially supported OS for a 3.1? I believe it is. Yeah, is it El Capitan? Is it? Okay. Yep. All right. I believe you. Yes. So anyhow, I mean, look, I've got an SSD in this thing, and I've got plenty of RAM and everything like that. It runs pretty well. And considering it's just down here in my workshop, and all it's doing is, you know, tracking my jobs and doing live streaming. All right, next up is these three here down near the connector. So we're going to need 3 caps there. Bum, 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 bum. 3 caps. 1, 2, 3. 3 caps. Lots of tweezers. Always need lots of tweezers because they do tend to up and walk away sometimes. Okay. Yeah, you know, it's interesting that with these older Macs, obviously, you know, being a vintage Mac collector, I always have a soft spot for OS 9. But I can tell you, I'll tell you an interesting story. So when I many years ago, I used to do quite a bit of 3D illustration. It was mainly product stuff. It wasn't particularly artistic. It was mainly just mocking up product packaging. You know, so you would create a design for the product, and then you would have a 3D model of that product, and then you would put it in a nice little setting. You might create a little simulation of it being on a supermarket shelf with other products around it, showing the new design on it. Then you'd show it to the client so they would get a better idea of the design that you were coming up for that particular product. So I did quite a bit of 3D work at the time, and I was also doing a little bit of 3D work for myself for fun. And I set up a little render farm here using lots of old 604 CPUs, you know, sort of lots of old power computing clones and stuff like that. Now, they, strictly speaking, weren't meant to run OS 10. You had to use ex post facto to get OS 10 running on them. But you could do it. You could install OS 10 on them. And the thing that I remember the most was when I had that render farm running on OS 9, I mean, those render nodes used to just crash all the time. As soon as I moved them up to OS 10, they were so stable. And although I always look at OS 9 fondly, you only have to use it for a little while, and then you get a system bomb or something like that to be reminded of just how stable OS 10 is. And we've kind of been treated, you know, we've been spoilt by it for so long now, that we can get all nostalgic about OS 9, but do remember that when you start using OS 9 and then you get a system bomb, was like, yeah, that's right. And a lot of the time when you get a system bomb, sometimes you could recover it with a force quit or something like that. Other times, only option was to restart the computer. And when I think about my computer these days, I might have my computer running for weeks in between restarts. Back then, I mean, you'd be lucky to have your computer running for a day without a restart. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have always been a Mac person, so that I have worked with lots of different types of computers, but Macs are generally the ones that I like to use and I like to work with. My day job as a programmer, I can ultimately use pretty much any. It's web programming that I do, so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I develop on. I can develop on pretty much any platform I like. But I generally prefer to work on the Macs, and that's probably just because I've worked with Macs for most of my professional life. Going back a long way now because I'm an old bastard. 2 more caps. I very first started working with Macs professionally, and what I mean by that, oh wow, look at that, I've got a bent pin on this one. Yeah, I think it's okay. I don't see any damage there. I don't know. I might not use that one. Yeah, I mean, one of my earliest jobs, there were Macs there, but I was actually using Apple IIe's, so I wasn't using them. But the next job that I had, and this would have been 1989. So in 1989, I started at a job where I was using Macs every day. So that's where my kind of professional career with Macs started, 1989. So whatever that is, a long time ago, I know. And I've been pretty much using Macs ever since. I am a big fan of the operating system. There are things that Apple's Macs have been doing now for a long time that I still feel like Windows hasn't got right, given how long Windows have been ultimately doing a graphical user interface. I still feel like there are some things they're behind on. I totally accept there are some things they're ahead on, but there are some things I look at and I think, yep, no, you guys still haven't got that quite right yet. But again, it all comes down to personal preference, and we are talking about tools. Whether you're working with whatever tool, screwdrivers, drills, whatever, you work with a tool that makes you more productive. That's all it really comes down to. And there's no point, I do hear people sort of arguing over Mac and PC, and I just sort of feel like at the end of the day, what difference does it make? Whichever one makes you more productive is the one you should be working with. Okay. Sorry, I've been neglecting the chat here. Okay. System 7 and System 6. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of, with all of my old vintage Macs, I generally run most of them on System 7. I like it. Again, comes to nostalgia. And System 6 on some of the really old ones. I have run System 6 on my Mac Plus and on my SE. System 1 on the 128K Mac. Yep, that goes back away. Hawk Photography, hello. Someone that recaps in Canada, my Color Classic died. Well, if you're happy to just send the board and you can find a way of sending it to me not too expensive, feel free to send it to me. It doesn't actually, the postage is not that bad, certainly from here to there. I don't know what it's like for sort of sending from there to here. Someone did tell me that apparently PayPal have some sort of postage thing. I'm not sure, some sort of international postage thing, global postage or something, which is apparently quite reasonable. So, but yeah, I mean, I've had stuff sent to me from the States to do. So I would have no objection to doing recapping from a board, on a board from Canada, if you want to send it this way. There are people that still argue about Amiga versus an Atari ST. Wow. Yeah, look, I'm sure there are people that are doing the recapping. The main thing that I've found that kind of, I guess, makes me a better recapper is having the computers to test the boards after they've been done. You know, and I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that have the soldering skills to go in and do something like this. It's not rocket science at the end of the day. But once it's then been done, you know, if you then get that board sent back to you and it doesn't work, you know, what do you do then? You know, if you can actually have it so that the person's recapping it has an opportunity to plug it in and test it, and then send it back to you, say, look, I know this works. It is a little bit better. I actually had someone send me an 840 AV board, which I recapped in the live stream, and I'm unable to test that, and I hate that. I hate not being able to test a board before I send it back to the customer. The customer's pretty much said, oh, I've sent you recapping videos, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's like, well, you know, thank you for the confidence, I appreciate that. But, you know, this board has got damage on it. You know, this board has got, you know, damage from corrosion on it, and I cannot guarantee that that hasn't caused some issues somewhere on the board. And until it's tested, we won't know. I mean, we know it's got nice new caps on it now, but there could be a broken trace or a broken via somewhere that I'm unaware of. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that when I started working with computers all those time ago, we had plenty of computers that could display in color, things like 2CIs and 2CXs and stuff like that. And I even have an SE with an external monitor connected to it. And System 6 is what we had. I mean, I remember when System 7 came in, I've still kept, I've still kept the magazine from the time where, you know, they're all talking about, oh, big System 7, look out. You know, I mean, some of the things that we used to have in System 6 were obviously the font DA mover. You know, if you were wanting to install desk accessories or fonts, use that. Now, admittedly, we used for fonts, we used font management. We used Suitcase, I think it was version 2.13 or something like that. And that allowed you to activate fonts without needing to use the font DA mover. We also needed ATM, Adobe Type Manager, which rendered the fonts nice and smooth on the screen, because for those that aren't aware, in the olden days, what you had with fonts, you had screen fonts and you had printer fonts. And so the screen fonts were what you would look at on screen, and the printer fonts were what got sent to the printer to make sure you got nice, sharp, high-resolution printing on a printer, on a PostScript laser printer. Now, what would happen is if you didn't have a screen font that corresponded to the size you wanted to display it on screen, it would interpolate, and you would get it. It would look all really blocky and yucky. And what Adobe Type Manager did is it actually used the printer font to render a nice smooth version of the font on screen, no matter what size you selected. So a really, really important tool at the time. And then we also had Adobe Type Reunion, which used to put the fonts into their groups. So if you selected Helvetica, you would get all the different weights in a little sort of pull-out menu. So these are all these tools that we had to have running on System 6 to, you know, so in a design studio. And then, of course, that a lot of that stuff within System 7 got sorted out. In System 7, you could just drag fonts onto the system. You didn't need a font DA mover. I think System 7 introduced TrueType fonts, so then you didn't need Adobe Type Manager for that as well. So yeah, but I mean, all of those early days of working with the Macs, I remember it was all System 6. Everything was System 6 back then. And yes, in color. And I mean, even this is another thing. I mean, I had a Mac too, and I had 2 monitors and 2 display cards, so that I could actually, within System 6, run screen side by side. You know, just put the monitors side by side and, you know, sort of run the cursor across from one to the other. Now, of course, these days, no big deal. You do that all the time. I mean, everyone does. I mean, I've got 3 screens attached to my computer up in the house there in my office. But at the time, you know, when we're talking about, again, keep in mind, we're talking about late 80s, very early 90s here. You know, to have that capability on a Mac of that age, where you had 2 display cards and you just had a great big desktop that you could move between, it was amazing. It was like, wow, this is incredible. And again, that was all being done with System 6. So, okay. Yeah, so anyhow, that's fun. While I've been prattling away here, I've just finished recapping this thing. So I've hardly been providing instructional information on recapping in this video. It's been more just about me having a great big chat. So sorry about that. As usual, when I do any recapping job, I always check my work afterwards. So the things I'm checking for, first of all, that it's soldered on both sides and nice and secure. I am checking to make sure that the right caps are in the right place. I'm checking to see that the polarity is correct, that I haven't put any on backwards. So I've got these 2 here, which are 107, and all the rest are 476. 476, 476, 476, 476. Oh, this is why we check our work. This is why we check our work. Because sometimes you forget to put a capacitor on. Look at that. No capacitor. Back to introduce new bus card slots, I believe it was. Yes, that is correct. So the Mac 2 was the very first modular Macintosh. Modular meaning that it wasn't like a compact Mac. It was one where you could put in expansion cards, you could put in extra hard drives. You know, there was lots of space inside that to stick extra drives. In actual fact, you could stick, I mean, my original, I've still got the hard drive, came with a 5 1/4 inch hard drive. It was 20 or 40 megabytes. I don't remember exactly, but there was enough room on, you know, inside that case to, you know, put, I think, more than one 5 1/4 inch hard drives. Yeah, they're massive things like that. Yeah, so they were a modular Mac that allowed you to do updates, you know, easily access the RAM, easily access the floppy drives, the hard drives. You know, there was, and that was, the Mac 2 was the very first of that kind. 68020 CPU. It's one of only 2 Macs that I'm aware of that use a 68020 CPU. There's obviously the 68,000 in all the original compact Macs, most of the original compact Macs. And then the Mac 2 had a 68020, and so did the original LC, had a 68020, but then they went, you know, all the rest are all 68030. So the original Mac 2 was, it only read 800K floppy disks. It didn't have what was referred to as a super drive, which allowed it to read 1.4 megabyte floppy disks. The only way you could get it to read 1.4 megabyte floppy disks was to get an upgrade. There was a ROM upgrade that you could get, and the ROM upgrade would allow, you could put in a super drive and you could read high density disks. So that was, as I say, that was a ROM upgrade. My Mac 2 that I owned at the time did have that. I don't have that Mac 2 anymore, unfortunately, which makes me very upset. But anyhow, that's my own stupid fault. The other thing that the ROM upgrade gave you was it gave you the ability to take it all the way up to 128 megabytes of RAM. Without the ROM upgrade, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it wouldn't go all the way up. It had 8 RAM slots, but you couldn't go up all the way up to 128 megabytes. Yeah, so that, yeah. But I love the old Mac too. Yeah, great old Mac. And of course, the other thing, and this is something I've also mentioned, with my Mac 2, when I used to run that with period correct software and systems, it used to fly. I mean, this thing was so quick. I mean, the speed it took to just move around and everything like that. And I think it was System 5 or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But it was just so fast on those original operating systems. It was blazingly fast. I mean, and this is one of the reasons when I see people with, say, a Mac SE or something like that, or even an SE30, and they say, oh, I'm going to install System 7.5 on this. And I sort of say, don't, you know, I mean, I get the I get that you want to stick 7.5 in there. You want to put the newest system that it can potentially run. No one uses 7.6, of course. You want to get the newer operating system on there. But if you want to get the most out of that computer from a usability perspective, a speed perspective, I would not stick 7.5 on an 030 Mac. I would stick 7.1. So, if you like following along at home and find the recap guides and tools, thank you very much for that, Jay. I do appreciate it. Just pops up every now and again and provides some advertising for me. I should return the favour, of course, the House of Moth. If people want to jump onto his channel and have a look and subscribe, he's got some great stuff on there. Some very useful stuff, I have to say, in particular if you're interested in sort of more of the Power PC side of computing, you know, your sort of G3, G4, G5, that sort of thing. He's got some great stuff there. And also, you know, Mac Pro stuff. He also has a fine video on how to properly clean a puck mouse. You cannot forget that one. Very important video to watch that one. Yeah, so jump on, and of course have a look at his website as well. Lots of interesting information there. He's got guides on doing the Pixless mod. Anyone who is aware of the Pixless mod, allowing you to put in you know, display cards that require more power than the original little pinouts that you would have on the board. So you drag the power straight from the power supply. Great stuff. So okay, 6.08 is what I would run on a Mac Plus Oz Retrocom. That's definitely what I would use. I should actually say it's what I use on my Mac Plus. I have a floppy emu, or emu, depending on, you know, I say emu because of the bird. You know, when I see EMU, I instantly pronounce it emu because of the Australian native bird. But yeah, a lot of people call them a floppy emu, but I call them a floppy emu. Yeah, and I run 6.08 on the Mac Plus, and I think it's a good operating system. A Mac Plus, yeah, good operating system for the Mac Plus. Yeah. Okay, so we've got 7.1 on LC3. Okay, can I make a recommendation for you, Nate? A bit fiddly setting up TCP/IP. If you haven't already done this, which you probably have, but if you haven't already, I suggest installing Open Transport version 1.3. Runs on the system 7.1, it'll run on that Mac, and it makes setting up TCP/IP, you know, just using a DHCP server, it makes it so much easier. So if you haven't done that, I would recommend getting Open Transport 1.3. You'll find it on Macintosh Garden. I think it's called Gold Edition or something like that. And if you install Open Transport, it, as I say, just makes networking a lot easier. Lots of interesting information and white space. Where's the white space? Bruce needs a mouse upgrade. Hook him up with a puck mouse. I've got a puck mouse, thank you. It's a really interesting thing. Look, I apologize. I am waffling here at the moment, but I had a puck mouse stored away in a drawer for ages. And I was just totally unaware of what happened to those things in time. And so I pulled it out. And I'm like, oh, look, cool, I found a puck mouse. And it was just sticky and awful because it used to have a matte finish on the edges. And that matte finish obviously oxidizes over time or something. And it just became all sticky. And yeah, so now I see the need to clean puck mouses because they're revolving. Obviously, when you clean them, you get that sticky stuff off. You essentially take that matte finish away, which is a shame. And they end up being shiny rather than the matte finish that they originally had. That matte finish was obviously some coating that was sprayed on. Maybe there's some coating you can spray on to replace it, but I don't really care about that. I hate the puck mouse anyway. Okay. I could just go out and buy a SCSI 2SD at some point. Yes, I would recommend. Just again, this is just a little note that I'm putting out there for people who want to buy SCSI 2SDs. The supplier, the main supplier, which is in the US, in Australia, you could buy them from the guy who makes them. He's got a website. Oh, what's it called? Code Source. CODE. SRC, I think it is, .com.au, something like that. And he, McMaster's, I think his name is, McMaster. I can't remember exactly, but anyhow, he used to be able to buy them in Australia from him. He's Australian, he's in Queensland, he's the one that created the SCSI 2SD. He, I believe, has done some sort of deal with inertial computing in the US, and that's he is no longer selling the version 5.1 here in Australia. I think he's still selling the version 6, but not the version 5.1. So you have to buy it from Inertial Computing in the US. And if you're here in Australia, that's really expensive when you take the shipping into account. The other problem is that as last time I checked, Inertial Computing literally had none, not a single one of the version 5.1 SCSI-to-SDs available. Now, I don't know if that's a COVID thing or some sort of issue with manufacturer. I really don't know. For anyone who is after a SCSI-to-SD and they want to buy one, if they can't find one at one of those sources to buy one, my next recommendation would be to try this company here. I'm just going to put a link into the chat. I'll just bring it up. Bear with me just a moment while I bring this up for people. That's it there. They're in China, so if you have an aversion to buying stuff from China, this is not the link for you. I have bought probably a dozen from these guys, and so I don't have any issue with them. You know, I've bought from them and not had any problem at all. And so these guys, you can buy the version 5.0 from them. They actually, I believe they actually make them there, and they manufacture them, and then I send them out to you. So this is the link that I want to send for anyone who's looking for a SCSI-to-SD version, a version 5 version. So yeah, so anyhow, there's my SCSI-to-SD thing. Is version 5 still open source? Now, potentially yes, but I've never been able to find any of that information. I know the version 3, I think, was certainly open source, but I don't know about the version 5. I mean, I would love to be able to just buy them in kits and put them together myself, but I haven't found anyone that does that. And of course, if you try and buy these on eBay, they're really, really expensive. So as I say, if you buy them directly from China, you can get a better price for them. So I used to sell them. I sold my last one the other day, and I just haven't bought any more. So I will need to buy some more. Okay, so here is our finished LC575. All new caps on there. As I said, I go through and do my checks, make sure that they're all soldered on both sides, nice and secure, right caps in the right place, right polarity, all that sort of stuff. And this is all looking good. I think this will all work fine. So the next thing I'm going to do is pop this into the ultrasonic cleaner, which is all nice and warm. And this will then just need to be tested. Now, I could theoretically test it now before cleaning it, but that would involve going up to the house and bringing a computer down here. Just how important is it to see it tested? I will put the word out, you guys. I can either not test it and you just take my word for it that it works, or I will have to leave the stream for a brief moment and go up, and get, I've actually got a Mystic Color Classic that I did yesterday, and I can pop this board in there and test it. So, yeah, I knew Jay was going to say very important. The most important, yeah, test it. Okay, all right, well, that's enough. I mean, Jay said twice. That doesn't count as 2 votes. That's still only 1. But Trina's then come in and said test it. Now I've got 3 for Jay. All right, okay. So here we go. I'm going to do it. So here we go. We'll just get a little side view of the board here while I go up and I grab it. Now, just be aware. How do you wash away the remaining liquid of the ultrasonic cleaner from the board after it's done? So for me, it is a several-step process. Well, 3-step process, I guess. So I put it into the ultrasonic cleaner and get it all nice and clean, sparkling clean. Then I sort of let it drip dry just for a little minute. Then I pop it into a bath of isopropyl alcohol. This stuff here, which is kind of, what is that? This is 99.997, technical grade isopropyl alcohol. I soak it in isopropyl alcohol. Now, I've heard of some people that soak it in distilled water, which would also work as well. So that you're just basically wanting to rinse off the excess detergent and everything. The reason why I use isopropyl alcohol is because it actually pushes the water away. pushes the water away from all the little nooks and crannies and leaves alcohol there. And of course, alcohol has a very, very low boiling point. So it's very quick to dry away. So the alcohol pushes the water out of the way and then dries very quickly. And it leaves it completely and totally clean, dry, and streak-free. I've got a little toaster oven down here, and I put it in the oven there on around about I think it's about 80 degrees Celsius, 70, 80 degrees Celsius. Not hot enough to melt any plastics, but warm enough to just speed up that drying process quite significantly. And I just let it sit in there usually for about 45 minutes to an hour on that relatively low temperature. It becomes absolutely and totally bone dry, and then it comes out looking brand new. Okay, so let's put it back on chicken cam, and I will jump up and get that classic, and we will then test it and check and make sure that it does actually work. So be right back. When I leave with my my wireless microphone, as I start to go out of range, it tends to make some weird popping noises and stuff like that. So actually, I wonder if I can mute it from here. How about that? Can I mute it? There's no mute as such. I can only... Oh, hang on. The mute? Okay, I'm going to go up to the house. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, now, this is mine. Now, this stream could end up getting cut short fairly soon, and the reason for that is it looks like it's about to rain. So, and I've got washing on the line, so that's all got to come in. So this here is my Macintosh Classic. It's not a customer's. Good to use mine, and this is my LC575 board, and look at that. I haven't even bothered to recap it. Isn't that terrible? I do recapping, and I didn't even recap my own board. Fresh coffee required. Okay, so Dana, other Dana, hello, thank you for joining. I do apologise, we're actually getting nearly at the end here. The end of the stream is going to come because I am going to have to go out and get washing off the line because it's about to rain. And I've still got other things to do, but as I mentioned earlier on in the stream, the other things that I have to do today aren't really, well, they're not really particularly fun for streaming. They're more sort of administrative tasks associated with these. I've got to pack a few boards up and stuff like that, and that's very hard to stream, that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to pop some Black Benny Ramalam onto this. There's some RAM on there, and I'll stick the VRAM on as well. Take it off again when I clean it. It's nice doing recappings like this. They're just straightforward, in and out. No, you know, sort of no real. Well, I haven't tested it yet, so I don't even know that, do I? Yeah, I mean, like I've got an SE30 that I've got to work on later today. That's not working properly. So, oh, here he comes! Here he comes! Oh, why are these so heavy? Bloody CRTs. You have to move this out of the way. Sorry. There we go. Okay. I would really love to have way, way, way more bench space. Okay, in goes the board in the back. We will have to connect the keyboard to it because this is one of the computers with a soft power button. So we press the keyboard to switch it on. This is one that, of course, a few people have been caught out with, even myself, many, many years ago, when I had forgotten the fact that some of these computers did switched on with a keyboard. And I had a computer and I switched it on at the back and I'm like, oh, it doesn't work. And then I started doing a little bit of research and people were talking about the keyboard. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten. It had been too long. I had distanced myself from the vintage Macs for too long. So who's going? OzRetroCom. Oh, thank you for joining. Bye. You're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on this starting up. He's got faith in me. He's got faith it's going to work. Oh, there we go. There's a. Now this is my one, and it has some weird behaviour sometimes. So we'll just see what happens. Okay, be ready. Beautiful sounding chime. Beautiful. So sometimes with this one, it actually restarts more than once. It'll start up and then it'll sit for a bit and then it'll just restart itself automatically. It's just one of the... Actually, come to think of it, I wonder if it's because that board hasn't been recapped. Maybe it's because I haven't recapped my board because I'm so lazy. This is, as I say, this has been Mystic updated. So it does often take quite a while for this screen to warm up. And of course, there is also the possibility that it doesn't work. There could be other problems with this. This is, this board did have problems, and it still have problems. It might need to be cleaned and whatever. But the fact that we get a chime like that, there's a lot of positives. But yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on this. I've got a hard drive activity light inside this that I built into it. So I'm just looking at this here. If it starts flashing red, it's not. So this appears to be very much not working, doesn't it? Okay, let me just try and restart it. I've just done a soft restart, like pressing the reset button on the older Macs. See if anything happens. And it definitely doesn't appear to be working properly. So it is chiming, and look, to some extent, it's kind of it's good that it's doing this. This is why I need to test things, because when someone sends me something like this and they're complaining of a particular problem, I recap it. I can send it back to them, you know, and could be having stuff. Maybe it's because there's no battery in it. I know people often go on about that. It's got to have a battery in it. No, it doesn't. Because the other ones I've been starting without a battery, they've been fine. As I say, I do need to end this stream. I do apologise that this hasn't worked, but as I say, the next thing I need to do is clean the board properly. It was very dirty, and then I need to just go around. If it doesn't work after cleaning, I'll then have to go around and try and find out what the issue is. Swap the VRAM with the ones you have. Yeah, see, I like it when people are thinking like that. Thinking. Craziness. I can run this without VRAM at all, I think, from memory. I don't think the 575 actually has to have RAM installed. I think it's got some VRAM on board. Yeah, the ROMs. Ooh, here comes the rain. All right, got to be very quick. Going to take the VRAM out. I'm going to try it without VRAM. Actually, no. Let's put in the VRAM that I know works on mine, because given how desperate I am to finish this stream so that the washing doesn't get wet, let's just go with that. Okay. Darn rain. Okay, let's try it. anyone who is on Facebook, if you go to my Brankus Creations Facebook page, jump onto there, follow the page if you like. I generally do like to put posts on follow-ups. So if with this particular board, I then clean it and then test it and it all works, I will post on there what it is, or if I find another problem, I'll usually post that there. So it's still looking very much like it's not starting up. So yeah, the CRT doesn't seem to be lighting up. I know this one works because, as I say, it's mine. So anyhow, as I say, I do have to sign off. I would have liked to have kept this going for a little bit longer, even if it was just to put my board in so we could see it switch on. But unfortunately, the sound of that rain is getting heavier, and the washing is still there, and it's going to get wet. So I say thank you to everyone for watching. I do appreciate it. Thanks for joining me for the stream. I will have obviously more streams coming in the future, so I hope to see you at the next one. And yes, and I will be posting updates on what happens with this computer on my Facebook page, so you can jump on there and have a look, and I'll let you know what the story is. So thanks again, and goodbye.